Hello, I'm so excited to be chatting with you today about your new movie, Werewolves. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, can you just tell anyone who's watching this what exactly the film is about,
All
briefly?
right, so Werewolves is a movie basically dropping you into the second year this event has happened. So, what happened the year before was a supermoon came out, turning everybody into werewolves. Everyone that entered the moonlight literally to werewolves. So, we are dropping you into the second year that this event is about to happen. The day is the moon is about to come out. This distinct supermoon is going to come out. And so, our entire world is basically doomsday prepping for this night, getting ready for the night, and trying to figure out if we can find a cure for this or not.
That's so cool. And like I love movies like this that instead of like showing you how it started, just drop you into the lore. And I'm curious how you felt about that and if that was just like something that was in just drew you in as a director to a script.
Yeah, instantly. I was ready to watch something that was already done. I mean, I had done a zombie movie in the past that was a movie about how it started. And I've
Yeah.
always been a fan of watching movies, like you said, that just sort of drop you in and get you ready. And so when I read this and we were just already in the mix, and you're sort of having to learn as you go what the world is. So you're constantly asking questions. I find that the audience leans in a little bit more and they're more interested because they're curious about why is that happening or why is this happening instead of you're basically spoon feeding it to them with showing them how it happened. This way, they're just trying to pick up on things of how it happened. So I think to me, it was much different. It was really cool. It was something that I really loved.
Hell yeah. And so you obviously have a horror background, but you also have a big action background. And this is, I know Margot was your most recent, one of your most more recent
Yeah.
films, and it's horror action, but this is like such a horror movie. How does it feel to like be back squarely within the horror genre? I know all of your work is kind of in and out of there, but this is
Yeah.
like
This
horror.
is this is totally back. Yeah, this feels back for me. You
Yeah.
know, like the last one I really felt like I was in was Silent Night, and that one
Oh, wow.
was my
I love
jam,
that.
you know. And but everything else has been sort of actiony, horror-y or actiony totally. And then like you said, Margot is really more of a slow burn thing. And I think this felt more back for me. Like I get to deal with horror, I get to deal with creature, I get to deal with some gore, I get to deal with biting faces off, whatever.
Hell
Like to me, this felt
yeah.
like being back in the world that I wanted to be in.
That's so nice. It's a return home for you with
Yeah,
a
it's what
really amazing. Yeah.
it's cozy. It's a cozy feeling to be back in the genre that started you, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things that some people might look back on and go, "I'm not going there again," and kind of try to keep trudging forward. I've always said I wanted to get back there. After it felt like you're in the trenches of action, which is not a bad thing. It's just it's a lot of
No.
work, and so getting back to horror is something a little bit different, and I think it was a little bit invigorating to be doing it. So yeah, I was ready for it.
But also with your action experience, did you find that it made things a bit easier for you just in terms of choreographing and working with a team to choreograph action sequences and big action moments?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really
Oh
allowed
yeah.
me to sort of understand timing, I guess, and really understand how long certain things were going to take on
Oh.
set. And so knowing that and going into a monster movie with practical monsters, you already have to take timing into account because they're constantly running late or the prosthetics not working or the animatronics aren't working. So you're constantly have to dealing with timing. But with action, it's very similar because stunts don't work, things fall apart all the time. So
Yeah.
dealing with that was almost a seamless transition to dealing with a giant monster. It just was dealing with a person instead of pyrotechnics not working, right? I'm actually dealing with a person who's like, this is not working. And so it
Yeah.
was actually a lot easier. But definitely dealing with action, really helped sort of forge the way for this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, and you mentioned the werewolves. From the beginning, did you say this, I want this to be almost completely practical? I know there are some parts that aren't, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much entirely practical for the
Yeah,
most part.
I would go on. I would say it's like 95% practical, this movie.
Yeah,
And
okay. That's
so
what I
it
thought.
was,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's heavy practical. Like we did know early on. I mean, I said from the very beginning that I wanted this movie to be as practical as possible, just being an 80s kid and at heart and knowing I wanted to feel them on screen. I wanted to sort of have the audience know they were there from day one. Of course, we knew there were certain things that weren't going to work. We're going to have to augment. But one of the things I'm really proud of is that anytime there is a werewolf on screen, like the practical werewolf, I didn't touch him from that point. So, however I shot him is how he looks through the edit through, the ending coloring, everything. There's no VFX like cleaning him up or fixing seams or anything like that. That's not happening at all. It's directly how we shot the werewolf on set. We'll live and die by the suit. And to me, that was important, not just for the movie, but it was important for the guys who built it. Alec
Yeah.
Gillis and the team and their crew is sort of just a sort of like a little, thing for them. Like, look, I got you. Your design works. I'm trusting it. And I'm trusting the audience is going to get it. So that was
Yeah.
important for me.
That's so nice though to hear about that trust because I think that trust is so important and to show how much you respect their work too. I think that is so cool because again, we don't get that a lot. You like maintaining the integrity and imperfections and all, and I think that's great because we all know it's not real, and so just keeping those
Yeah,
imperfections, I think, just make
I
it
agree.
feel more authentic, in a way.
And also just I love, boosting artists in general. I just
Yeah,
think there's so many talented artists that work behind the scenes in movies that for me to say or get all the credit for it is unrealistic, and really not fair. That I
yeah,
really have to lean on the guys that like helped me design the werewolf, helped me create the werewolf, and then created it themselves, and then brought the animatronics guys in. Those guys are actually moving the mouth, and then the suit performer who's got to do all the movement. So there's just so many different artistic things happening when you're making a movie like this that you really have to trust everyone doing their job to do it the right way. And
yeah.
you can't micromanage that. Like it's like those are
No.
the kind of things that, like, I gave them a broad stroke. This is what I want. They came in, they had their artistic license. I made sure from day one they understood this is artistically you too. This is not me saying has to be this. So a lot of it is a really good blend of all of our collective minds coming up with something. And so that was obviously really important for me.
Wait. So okay, you said it's animatronics and a suit. So there is someone in the suit,
Yes,
and then there are puppeteers controlling the animatronics in the face at the same time.
that's right. So the
Oh
the
my God,
suit is all the
that's a lot
performer.
of moving parts. Like
Yeah, the
literally
suit.
in the
Yeah, the suit. The guy, the performer is on the suit. He's got earbuds in, listening to me to say, "Hey, bigger movements, shoulders wide, whatever I was saying." And
Oh,
then you
okay.
got but he's wearing the head, and the head is another, I don't know, 25 pounds. And so he's dealing with that. And then you have five guys running all of the animatronics in the face, which is the snout, the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the eyes, the ears, drool, like all of that stuff was on command, right? So if I was like drool, it just like pour out of his mouth, and then
That's
I
so
could change the drool, so I could be like put some blood in there, and then it would be blood coming out of their mouth, whatever. So it was really
cool.
cool. And then you got to think about that, and then you put seven guys in the suit, then you got to multiply that by all of these guys having to do these things. So it was very crazy at times to have all of these guys in these suits and all of the animatronic guys working together and trying to get all that to play nice. Not always easy.
Oh my God, because animatronics are like notoriously tricky too. They love to
Notorious.
break, right? And just like shit the bed to put it, like bluntly. And so that must have
Yeah.
just been a nightmare in and of itself because that is your face. That's what sells it as feeling like a monster.
And it would happen from time to time, like, because we also put these things in rain at some point. So like they had to be able to
Oh,
work in the rain. They had to, I mean, it's a very shark similarity where the shark won't work. Sometimes the face just would freeze and like look at me, and I'm like, I think he's stunned, like, and so like there were moments like that were like, okay, let's pat him, dry him down, and then let's get him going again. Not too many because they were pretty well done. So like we didn't have too hard of times with the animatronics. It really was more, what was more difficult is just the actors in the suits being able to see where they were going with the
yeah.
animatronics happening. So that was difficult.
Did you ever try on the head? Did you get to see for
I
yourself how
I did
uncomfortable, like, or how
I
heavy it
did
was?
I even have one of the heads. So like from time to time I will put it on,
Hell
and just roam
yeah.
around my house, and my son's like, "Oh my God, Dad's wearing the head again." Like, so there are moments like that I feel like, I'm probably mentally challenged, I'm hurting, but like who knows?
Well, so werewolves. I love a werewolf. We haven't gotten a lot of werewolves. And I know like the Wolfman is coming, but like you're I feel like you're on the cutting edge here of like a werewolf, like a reborn werewolf situation. And then I wanted to hear more about what draws you to werewolves and what you think is so cool about werewolves.
I've always been drawn to werewolves. I don't even know if that's probably why I grow like this big beard, just because there's something about werewolves that I fucking love. But I think there's something about becoming something you aren't that always kind of appealed to me because there's always maybe something bubbling inside of you that you wish you could just
Yeah.
let out. And maybe a lot of people gravitated to like the Hulk or something like that. For me, like it was about werewolves, and maybe because he became something just so much more disgustingly, and just almost like an animal. I don't know. There's something about that that to me was always attracting. And it was always something I wanted to make because I felt like on screen, they never really got enough credit on screen when they were there. And then people just kind of, I feel like, forget how cool they are on screen when they really are there. And so, like, it's awesome to try to get that push to bring them back.
Well, and I think that they're kind of taken for granted because if you have a
Yeah.
bad werewolf, it's pretty bad. And I feel like
Yeah.
people only think about that. But when you have a good werewolf and a good werewolf transformation, like that sticks in people's head. And I think that is just like so hard to nail. But I think here, especially with leaning on practical, you really nail that like draw to the werewolf and like the feral terror of a werewolf, not just being a wolf, but like a man who is also a wolf.
Yeah, I think that again, that is what I was looking for, right? I wasn't looking for these guys to become four-legged creatures that run around. Like it really was about mixing that man with the werewolf, and making it feel more menacing that way. I could be taller, hunched over, bigger, that kind of a thing. Yeah, to me, they were just a character that you're right. If you get wrong, it's you really atrociously wrong, right? But like it's like if you can get it right, then the audience is really on board for a really good time. So, that's something we focused on was to really try to make sure the werewolves and the transformations were something the audience would walk away at least going, okay, we got that. That worked. If anything else doesn't, as long as they go away going the wolves and the transformations, that was great for them. I call it a win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's a movie called Werewolves. People are coming to
Yeah,
see like
exactly.
the carnage and the skin ripping. That's what we come to a werewolf movie for,
Yeah, that's
and we
right.
get that here. So,
Awesome.
so before we wrap up, though, I would love to know what were some of werewolf movies that were really important to you as a kid. I know that like there's the usual, but I'm still curious for you if there were like a couple that particularly stood
You
out to
know,
you and were
obviously
influential.
Dog Soldier stood out. But really growing up, for me, it
Did you hear
was
the news about Dog Soldiers too?
I
Neil
do. What
Marshall
a
talked about.
bummer. What a
I
bummer that he was
I
like, they won't
know.
do it. I'm like, what do you mean? Who in the world is not funding Neil Marshall saying I want to make Dog Soldiers too?
Dog
Like,
Soldiers
let's
2?
go right now,
Go back to
So
that's like that is like OG Neil Marshall that I
yeah.
miss. So we need to go
Yeah,
back to
I
that.
missed
Anyway.
that. Like when he went to the descent, I was like perfect progression for him. But like, yeah, I mean, Ginger Snaps is a great one for me. Silver Bullet was a big one for me growing up. And I think it's just
Ooh.
because whether or not people love the wolf design, but I thought it was really fun. And it's Corey Haim, and he's just, it's kind of an innocent
Yeah.
thing. And I don't know, there's a lot of really great moments. There's a moment where the whole church congregation wolfs out, and it was very
Yes.
traumatizing for me. But like that movie really stuck out. I know there's the classics like American Werewolf in London and The Howling,
Oh
but
yeah.
for some reason, like Dog Soldiers and Ginger Snaps and Silver Bullet are big ones.
I love that. Will you let your kids see werewolves yet? Or are you
Oh,
waiting
they
until they're a
saw
little
it.
older? Oh, they'd have.
They
Okay.
saw it. Yeah, they saw it.
Okay.
They were pressured me. They're little rascals. They like pressured me. They're like, Dad, we gotta watch it. We gotta watch it. And finally, I broke down and let them watch it. They loved it, but I think it's because they were on set the whole time, so they didn't even like blink an eye. They knew, okay, that's Ian in that
Okay.
suit. You know what I mean? Like, but there were moments where they totally forgot that they. I could see it in my son's eyes where he was like, and he would just like jump under the covers. You know what I mean? But for the most part, they loved it. They had a good time. They're already telling their friends you got to watch the movie. So we'll see what their parents have to say.
That's got to be so cool to get to introduce your kids to horror. I know we
It's
talked about
fun.
this in the podcast, but it's got to be so cool to like see these things, especially your work through their eyes. Like that's just like a cool experience.
It's really cool to re-experience movies with them because you
Yeah.
might have just been like, okay, I've seen this a million times, but it doesn't feel like that when you watch it with them. It feels like you're experiencing it for the first time because they're just like, oh my God, Poltergeist, when we watched that with them for the first time and they're just like brains exploding of how much they loved it was
Oh
like,
my God.
it was so cool to see.
That's amazing. And my final question, if you had to program a double feature with werewolves, what movie would you pair with werewolves?
You know what? I think I would probably program Dog Soldiers and then I
Okay.
would program the original Blade. Because I just think it's a fun movie with a lot of action horror and I think it just looks so great. I think it would be a fun pairing.
Oh my God, Original Blade is one of my favorite. That's like me and my husband's go-to, like, we don't know what to watch. Let's just put on Blade.
Let's
Like
put on
that is like
Blade.
our go-to comfort
If
movie.
it's
I
on, I
love
just
Blade.
watch it. Yeah, it's
You
one of those movies
have
I just
to.
watch. Yeah,
It's
it's so
so
good.
fun and so good. And Stephen Dorff as a vampire was Wesley Snipes. I mean, was
Yeah,
Blade. It's just
you can't beat it. Can't beat it.
perfection. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for chatting with me about werewolves.
Yeah.
Everyone, it'll be in theaters on December 6th. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll have links for everything. And so excited for everyone to get on the werewolf train before the Wolfman comes out next year.